and between vice presidents.
We ready to go?
They just wait.
Let's call this meeting to order.
We have,
What are the minutes?
Those go with one of your agenda items.
Yeah. So let's see, where do we start? We want to start with approval of agenda.
Could you do roll call first?
A roll call.
hey, she'll get you trained, you might know.
It's.
It's more of a script for you guys this time to make things easier, and I didn't have time to get that done either, but it's gonna happen, I promise. Okay, Chair Hottinger,
Here.
Vice Chair Newland,
Here.
Member Short, here. Member Wells,
Here.
Secretary Patterson, here. Member Haney. Did you say Haney? Yes. Yeah, Member Haney, here. And Trustee Heck.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Right. So, yeah, now let's look at the agenda. And everybody take a minute to review tonight's agenda.
Thank you. I would like to amend the agenda. I don't know how to do this correct, but I'd like to amend the agenda.
Okay,
I'd like to add an introduction of our newest member. And secondly, I'd like to add a incorrect use of tree root barriers in a dead tree that was planted maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
okay. So this was a tree in Town Park?
It was planted on North Fork.
On North Fork.
There was a tree taken down, it was planted on North Fork, and it was a terribly incorrect use of root barriers.
Okay. So
And I have a photograph.
Okay.
So I'd like to add those two, I'd like to amend the agenda with
So
those.
you're making a motion to,
Well, I haven't made the motion.
okay,
I'd like to amend it.
Well, you have to make a motion to amend the agenda.
To even discuss it then?
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to add those two items to the agenda. One, to introduce our newest member, and one to discuss using tree root barriers. Do I ask for a second?
And the chair needs to ask for a second.
yeah. Do we have a second?
Second.
You can't do it. I said.
Did you say you seconded?
I did.
Thank you.
Point of parliamentary order now. Can we just put new business or any other? Can we just state it like that?
No,
Okay.
and if you look at, actually, the papers in front of you are from the ordinance that was passed, and it has your order of business actually in there codified. So,
Got it, thank you.
Question, Chair. Vice President or President, when do the new agenda items fall? They just go at the end? Before public comment?
Oh, you're asking me?
Of course.
Oh, I don't know.
That's all.
I know.
So,
So Sam, what do we got? We put these at item 9 and 10? Well, we want the introductions. I want to hear from Lisa here first. So is that item,
Number one.
we put that to item number 1. Seems to make sense.
Can we do that? Can you move it to where we want it?
yeah, I'm making it.
Okay, let's move the introduction of Lisa to number 1. And then the tree root barrier can happen at number 7.
7B.
7 or 6B.
Okay.
6B.
Yes. How easy.
And Sherry, you'll need a vote on that.
Yes, all in favor
I,
of these amendments?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion has passed. to amend the agenda. Good work, Mark. All right, so can we, as far as the approval, we make a motion to approve the existing agenda with Mark's revisions. I make a motion to approve this current agenda.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on. Minutes, do we have minutes?
The formal minutes are first.
Same, okay.
Point of parliamentary procedure. I have a question.
Okay,
So will the minutes always be on Civic Plus? Is that, did I get the name of it?
Or in the packet that I sent out to you, yes. Because when that's published, it's not only published to the board, but and on the town website.
yeah, you did send it out, didn't you? So we don't really have the minutes to look at here, do we?
Well, it's on the website.
It's on the
It's on the website of Paonia and on the calendar, and you push the calendar and then it comes up, the minutes, everything.
Press the packet. Only thing in the packet.
You wanna pull those up on your phone?
No, I think we should approve them because it's all recorded.
Yeah.
They're probably perfect.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna be
I
perfect.
don't know, my word corrects me sometimes, don't assume I'm human. As hard as that may be to believe sometimes. I would rather, if you guys haven't read them, that you move to put it on the next agenda and actually review them, than just assume that I got it. all.
Yeah, let's do that.
I move that we put last meeting minutes on the next agenda for approval.
Second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Who seconded that, I apologize. Okay, thank you, sorry.
We had them here once before, I think, printed out. Maybe, is that possible, Sam?
We're trying to move away from.
No, I think it's good.
It just. I can send them out to your email in the packet, but you guys are still gonna have to check your email.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I just was trying to, so we're all needing to review the packet beforehand. Yeah, okay.
And your guys' packet is a lot smaller than the board of trustees. Yours is probably only gonna have the minutes in it and maybe a couple of pictures or something that you guys may wanna look at, but
Yeah,
you know, so it's not gonna be a 300-page thing, or shouldn't be, at least.
yeah,
So,
okay. All right, let's move on then to our introduction, sort of what we're putting in before item number 1, introduction. Lisa, if you could just give us just a short little backstory, so we just know where you're coming from,
Sure.
that would be great.
All right. I'm from Arizona. Thank you again for having me. I'm very excited to be here. My partner and I just moved here, my mom as well, in August of last year. So we were just getting out of the big city. We're both small town folks and wanting to get back to it. Spent a few years kind of intentionally picking a spot, stumbled upon Paonia, and here we are. I work part-time over at Remax as an office manager, doing kind of admin things, and then the other half of my day is spent doing investigative genetic genealogy. So sitting at home and being really creepy in people's family history. So that's about it. We have a couple of dogs and just like to be outdoors, really enjoying our move and happy to be here and excited to learn about trees.
And you love trees.
I love trees. Excited to be around trees now because we don't have a ton of big trees in Phoenix. So
Yeah, nice,
yeah,
awesome. Well, it's great to have you.
thank you so much.
Can you explain that big mulch pile in front of your house?
It's compost, and if anybody needs compost,
I do.
come drive by and grab some, help yourself. We're 2 doors down from the auto parts store. We're trying to establish our garden beds. We can have garden beds now. We're
Yeah,
excited to
wow.
grow things. So we have
On which street?
wood chips on Niagara.
And then I go 2 doors down from the.
Yeah, you can't miss it. It's a white fence and then there's a big pile of steer and chicken poop. So come help yourself, please.
Yeah.
He delivered, but it was a 5 yards. That was our option. And I said, you know what? Why not? We'll use it eventually.
Yeah,
So,
wow,
yeah, come help yourself, please.
great.
This is such a Paonia meeting.
Yeah.
So,
How did you find out that there was an opening?
So my mom and I, she'll be here for the town meeting after, just come to the town meetings. And I think Sam and Ruben maybe put out a call for, hey, we need some board members. And I think of originally applied for the zoning board, maybe, something like that. She said, we need a tree board member. And I said, great. So here I am. Yeah.
With the lovely letter of introduction that she included, I thought she'd probably enjoy the tree board a lot more than she would the zoning board of adjustments.
yes, awesome, well, thank you. All right, moving on to item number 1, update from meeting with town administrator and public works director.
Sure. Before I start, should the minutes be in the packet that Sam sent? I don't see them. But we can move on. They're supposed to be in the packet, right? Yeah, that's a yes or no question.
Yeah, I believe so.
So Christina and I met with Stefan and Nikki.
And Samara. And Samara was there.
And the kind of the topic was ARPA, but we talked about several things that involved ARPA Day. So as some of you know, we cut down 5 trees. Sorry. 5 trees were taken out of the park. And we were going to plant 5 new trees. Well, just long story short, it ended up being 1 tree that we planted this past Saturday. So in the discussion, we talked about paying for the trees, how we would pay for trees, and watering the trees. So in the past, things were a little bit easier, but currently we don't have a way to pay for trees, except we could open an account with the nursery. We could also make a phone call from the nursery and possibly get it paid for by talking to a member of staff. The easiest way was that Tom picked up the tree, paid for it out of his pocket, and then he would get reimbursed by the city. So we still have to work that out. It's a once a year deal, and we need to get more in front of it next year. The big discussion point was watering. So with the new tree, we currently have 9 newish trees that Public Works needs to maintain. The 5 Grand Avenue trees, there's 1 in Lee's Park, there's 2 in the east side or west side of the football field, that's 8, and there are new ones 9. So that pretty much, I don't know how to say
Limits
this.
us.
That limits us,
Yeah.
but that's all Public Works can do, are those 9 trees.
Right.
And they said it would take them about 6 hours to water 9 trees. So there probably needs to be more discussion with that, but that's why we just bought 1 tree and planted 1 tree.
Yeah.
Because of Public Works. I'm just gonna go through my notes, Christina, you can add. We talked briefly, I pulled out our budget, went over that with Stephanie briefly about how much we had in our budget for new trees. We had plenty. He was surprised at how inexpensive trees are here in Colorado versus where he lived before and worked before. So those were the main points: watering, pruning. They went over to the park with us and we picked out the spot for the tree. We did talk a little bit about introducing evergreen trees into the park, and that got That way, not just, it got nixed. There's a lot of pushback on Public Works about putting evergreen trees in a park. So I think that's going to merit further discussion.
Not just any old evergreen, like a community holiday tree.
But it would still be an evergreen tree.
I know.
And the concept of evergreen trees, Nikki didn't like that big evergreen trees can block views into the park. And they could be a place for bad people to hang out. Yeah. She didn't like the idea of the way trash accumulates underneath.
It could be pruned, right? Like.
All of that.
Yeah.
I've addressed all that with her, tried to present a good argument.
We were almost there. We were so close.
We just decided, let's leave it and
Yeah.
let's continue to discuss it with Public Works. I took pictures, I didn't show her, I took pictures of big spruce trees, like by the library, beautiful examples of trees. There's nothing underneath them.
Right.
I'll just say quickly, as evergreen trees, spruce or pine grow up, they drop needles. Those needles cause the ground to get acidic and grass doesn't grow. So you don't have to mow. You don't have to mow. She was concerned about trash getting caught. And when they're pruned correctly, trash can blow through or you can reach in and get it. It's not a big deal. So that's further discussion,
Yeah,
I
okay.
think, with Vicki. Do you have anything to add?
We also, the budget next year has to have specifically a line item for purchasing trees.
Yeah.
And we really have to remind Stefan and get that for ourselves, so we know we have like $2,000 to purchase trees or whatever it is. We
Okay.
really need to push for that.
We did go over line items.
Yeah.
And everything has a line item. But
Yeah.
it's changed a little bit from how it was 2 years ago when I worked with Corey. So
But we
that's-
specifically don't have tree board purchasing trees, however much we are allotted.
Very good.
Okay, we can spell that out
Okay.
for the
Yes.
next budget.
Yes.
So.
So that's all I have.
Yeah.
Everything going.
Yeah.
Is there gonna be any discussion on that,
On what?
what he just presented?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Any
Open
questions?
the floor.
Well, I'm a little confused about, you have an irrigation system out there, and irrigation systems can be modified, and out of the 9 trees, at least 4 of them could be put on irrigation.
Can I address that?
Yes,
The irrigation system isn't good enough to water new trees.
They dump a lot. Have you ever been out there when they're watering?
But we need to really get water deep. to the
Right, but if you have a line going to a sprinkler and you get the main line and you go out from that, you should be able to get more than enough water to water a tree.
No, my experience over many years I've been doing this is the irrigation for turf is not the same as watering trees to help to get them established. We're talking if to hand water and get trees established so they have a good root system so they can get the water they need from the overhead water. But
I'm
initially.
not talking about doing overhead watering. I'm talking
No,
about
what
taking a line from the main line and doing.
That their system isn't.
I think it's
prepared
the
to do that.
system is challenging in the park based on conversations we've had with Corey and Nikki. You know what I mean? In other words,
It's challenging because they have to go out and put heads on every day, because if you do it another way, it gets clogged up and it's more hassle than taking heads off and putting heads on every day.
That's a budget item, that something has to be put into the budget to upgrade the irrigation system, and that's not a inexpensive thing to do.
yeah, Sam,
If you don't mind, I'd just like to interject too, that Public Works, a part of what Vice Chair Newland said was their issue with the spruce tree, but a lot more of it came down to resources and how many people they have and how much time they have to spend
Right, but
on things. So
They're spending
that was a
9
big issue mostly about the spruce tree as well. I don't want it to make it seem like they're just like, no, we hate that stuff, we don't want to do it. A lot of it is just they're very limited in how many people they have and all the stuff they have to do in the summer, so they have to be smart about going ahead, because they don't want to kill something after you guys plant it.
You have people, how many people are spending 9 hours to water trees? And how much?
We did not argue that.
No,
That probably
my
would
point
tell
is,
us.
how many people are spending 9 hours watering trees? And how much are they paid an hour? I mean, you're looking at years and years and years of people spending 9 hours watering trees.
Well,
That's a
right.
lot of manpower, right?
It is a lot of manpower. So can I sort of shift this a little bit, which is, we talked at an earlier meeting about volunteers that we could identify that would take on the watering, because the concern is the town may be doing it and then there's a water break and then 3 weeks go by and nobody even thought about the trees, right? Because that sort of has happened before. So we had talked about finding people that would be the water committee. And then the town said, as long as they signed a waiver, there was insurance, they could actually access the little,
Maybe, don't, yeah.
I thought that was.
It was, and then it wasn't on the table at the meeting. I mean, I've talked to Corey,
Yeah,
you know, under the rate. I've
right,
talked to Corey and asked because I've done the watering of the trees, street trees, like for years now.
Right.
For a year and a half. And he said I could have access potentially, I'll get with him, access to that permafrost thing and attach my hoses and get to some of the trees that needed it specifically. So, you know, it's sort of like we're gonna have to work
I
all
thought,
together and figure it out.
I thought there was an email that was, yeah, Sam?
So, yeah, sorry, it's been a long day. My words just went. One of the issues there is also limiting the amount of people that have, so there is a possibility of having volunteers that could have access to the stuff they need for watering, but as opposed to it being 10 people, we would need it to be less people. If that makes sense, you know, so if nothing else, I mean, you could have a crew of 10 people who wanted to help water the trees, but there needs to be one of those people who's gonna be responsible for, if they go through this stuff, the actual machine that's used, not just an interchangeable thing. So I just think there needs to be a little bit more coordination on that and working out exactly how it's gonna work. So, and it would be helpful too if we could find out how many people might be interested in doing something like that as well.
So to answer Kim's question, the town is very short-staffed. They don't have the time to water trees. It's that simple.
Actually, we're fully staffed and
But
we don't have a ton of time to do trees.
whatever the
Well,
problem
that's
is,
just the part of my argument that it's worth the investment to put a line to a tree instead of having 9 hours of people walking around watering trees.
well, that
You're talking
line,
about people being shorthanded or not having the time, whether they're shorthanded or not having the time to do it.
Well, that's because they're working on streets projects and water projects, all of our.
I'm not
people are-
criticizing.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that it's not like one person's just watering trees and then they're done. That's the balance too, is that all of our, even our water operators go out and help on water breaks and big street projects. You know, they all work together, do all sorts of stuff. There's a big job to do at the park. They all chip in to do that. So we just have, but they're trying to find a way to do this. And right now they have a pretty good system worked out to make sure the newer trees will get watered so that they'll be healthy.
Yeah.
We just might need to take a little bit more time and talk and to work out how we're gonna do the rest of it on a long-term basis.
Right, because we want to plant trees. If we can figure out the watering, that opens the door, right?
Yeah, I think it's just something we have to sit down as a board and discuss, whether at one of these meetings or another one, and then we can take our ideas to Public Works.
May I ask a question? What does the watering entail currently? Like, I know that's like pretty logistical, but is it like somebody walking up, attaching a hose, putting it on a tree for 20 minutes, walking it to another tree? What does that currently look like?
Speak to that.
Well, like probably these new trees, you would say 50 gallons every week on them, right?
Not probably every 2 weeks, but they
50
need to
gallons
be,
every 2 weeks.
they need to be watered regularly. And it requires that you have they have a piece of equipment that has a water tank, and I guess it's pretty limited, small tank. So, but you would go in and water that tree, go to the next one, go through town in an efficient manner. And usually a tree won't take you more than 15
15
or 20,
minutes.
20 minutes to just water it. I mean, I've watered a lot of trees in my day. You water, if you can have them close, you can water 1, 2, and 3 that are right there in the same vicinity. Go back and hit them again until that tree's just puddled inside the tree well, and then you can move on. And it is time consuming at times. So, but that's kind of the system we got in place, and I think we just need to think about maybe an alternative way, whether it be trying to get some irrigation or try to do something else different as far as.
Yeah.
That's just a discussion.
But I mean, like, when was that irrigation system put in and what is it? Plastic, metal, what?
I have no idea. It's a quick coupler
The
system.
things that come up are metal, so I suspect
It's
it's
all-
metal. It's an old system.
It's
But
hard
it's the
to-
pipe.
Right, I suspect it's metal, but I don't know for sure.
I don't know.
Because I talked to a guy that was out there doing it and I said, isn't this kind of a hassle doing this, like putting the pads on and taking them off? And he goes, it's a lot less hassle. This system's really old and it's a lot less hassle than trying to deal with clogs all the time. So evidently it was put in, according to this person who deals with it every day, it was put in a very long time ago.
Yeah, it is.
And if you've got heads, metal heads being screwed on, the likelihood that that's like PVC or something is not high because it wouldn't last very long.
And Town Park gets water with Lee's Park. It's such a kludgy system, guys. It is unbelievable. So to answer your question, it gets water with like a little 4-wheel truck and a water tank in the back. And
I saw the gentleman
Yeah.
earlier today
Yeah,
doing
that was
that.
Dennis.
Okay,
Huh?
okay.
I talked to him
Okay.
today.
Interesting.
They were going to put a deer fencing around our.
Yeah.
Nice.
Can I ask a question? How's the Vincerina tree? Is that one of the ones you listed?
Yeah,
Did it make it?
Coffee tree?
I did not go over to look at it, but it's on the list to get water. Yes. No, it's one of the 9.
Okay. Anyway.
All right, so Tom, you said we should have a focused discussion about a proposal for the town, whether, and going back to what Samira said, we could have a small committee. I don't know, Sam, was there a number there of more than, like if somebody's out of town, we could have a few people that are in the know, but not many, right? We're trying to limit that number.
Yeah, we want to, the best way for liability and to make sure that, everything is done right is, like, if you have a 10-person committee, maybe have 2 people on it that are gonna do the actual, okay, I'm gonna be responsible for the equipment, and I'm gonna, take on that kind of thing. I think that's gonna probably be a lot easier for everybody to work with and feel comfortable with, which is because we do have a limited amount of equipment too. There's so much that goes into this, so, but, I think that's gonna probably be something that's gonna be a lot easier, easier to be accepted.
So we just need to figure that out. And then,
And then things like that can always grow after all the schematics are worked out, and if there's not any issues, then you build from there.
No, I understand. You don't want a lot of people using that
I'm
piece
a
of
4x4.
But it's not just the tank or whatever. You gotta
Yeah,
check the oil and all that sort of stuff.
and it's nothing personal against anybody
Sure.
either, it's protecting town assets as well, so. We
Nikki-
want to water
Nikki
the
did-
trees and make sure that we still have our side-by-sides, which are the only way to get up on the mountain to our springs a lot of times, so.
yeah,
And Nikki did say she was going to write up a procedure for
Mhm.
water, filling the tank and doing all of that. She
Yeah.
just hasn't got to.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Believe it or not, we're getting a lot more done than we were getting done 5 years ago. We're making progress.
All right, so,
Can I just ask her one question?
Sure.
before we go? Is there a place that can be looked to see when that irrigation was put in and, if there's a schematic for it and anything about that irrigation system?
I'm sure there's something that we would have to look for it, and I mean, it's probably not gonna be one of our top priorities right at this moment, but we can absolutely do some searches to see if we can find that out. Or even talking with Dennis is a valuable resource. He's been there so long that a lot of times he's got the answers right off the top of his head.
Yeah, but you would want to have schematic. Okay.
I was gonna say, I don't think we have a schematic in most of our water pipes in town, so I don't know if one for irrigation.
Somebody had to put that system in, and when they did, they had to do a bid, and that bid had to be submitted.
I know a lot of people just did it themselves.
Probably the safety, right?
Yeah. That's what we're finding is we're replacing.
Okay.
All right, are we complete with item number 1? Update
Yes.
from our meeting, okay. Item 2, updates on pruning demo with Public Works. Who would like to speak to that?
I could speak to that. I thought it went well. We were able to go and actually help. I think they learned some proper pruning techniques and we got some good input. The staff that showed up was
We had 4 staff,
yeah,
right?
4 staff was very enthusiastic, wanted to take, do some hands-on training. And I thought it went well. I thought that they took in what I was trying to show them and we got what we needed to do at this point in time. I do think that that should be an annual event.
Yeah, I agree. It was exceptional. There was a tree in front of the TLC, the Learning Council, the linden tree, and I did reach out to find out who did the pruning, but somebody had just sort of whacked all the branches. I think it was when they painted. That's what I'm guessing. They painted that building. And maybe they just, but it was not done well. And so we met with the town, 4 people, and Tom led the training. And we all walked away having learned quite a bit. I feel like that was really good because these folks are going to be involved with looking at the clearance, the 14-foot, right? The different things that they'll be doing. And then we walked down and did the tree right in front of the building here. What kind of tree is that? The Velcova?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And so that was about lifting the low branches so that we get the street tree clearance. So that's great. I think we should do that every year for sure.
And I think part of the reason for that is because staff, they're changing. I mean, there was the guy we taught last year, the guys we taught, only one guy was there of the two.
Well, I think it's good for us to engage with Public Works, well, so they know who we are, and we know who they are.
Was something open to the public, like citizens could have come down and watched that demonstration? as well?
There were a few that did, and
One lady that follows us around and asks questions, so.
Nice.
Yeah.
we've been really talking about that, trying to figure out, we figured this would be priority, but yes, we wanted to do that with Arbor Day, but it didn't work out, but we do want to do that. So, yeah, I don't know, we could schedule it. I've done many pruning classes and I prefer to do them in late spring, late winter, early spring before the trees leaf out. So I can prune a tree with leaves on it, but there's a lot of, when you're trying to teach homeowners and residents to prune a tree, you need to have them be able to see the branches and understand how your approach and why. And it's easier when there's no leaves on the tree. So that's like March, or what are you, March, early April, March, April, okay. Great, we'll put that on the calendar.
Oh, and just to know, Arbor Day was advertised very well. We got Lisa's
They did
mom, and we got a guy named Kevin. Yeah. And that was it, I think it was it.
There was like 8 people there. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was huge crowds. Did a great flyer and posted it. I got there, yes. Thank you
Awesome.
so much.
Great,
We just started really hardcore pinpointed one earlier next year.
yeah,
Well, we're gonna start earlier.
are we complete with item 2?
Yeah.
Okay, item 3, website update.
Ruben, can you put the website up? So Ruben and I, mostly Ruben, did a fabulous job on the website. So when you guys visit it, you'll see that it's a little different than many of the other pages. Now, according to Ruben, I don't know if he's just making this up, but he said, thanks to us, other entities of the town like this format and they changed this. So we just kind of made this up. I put a bunch of stuff together, gave it to Ruben, he looked at it and said, no, maybe, no. And this is what we came up with. So I encourage you guys, and the website, I shouldn't say it that way, the web program application is very limited. You can't do things that normally you think you could do. So he had to be very creative in how he had to do hyperlinks, and you can't do hyperlinks, so he had to do different things on that left-hand column. So just take a look. If you guys have any suggestions, funnel them to me, not to Ruben, funnel them to me, and then we can talk about it potentially at the next meeting.
Great.
And then we can see if Ruben would want to change it. So,
And what's your what number are you?
oh, I'm two. But it's really done well. We got our logo in there and it shows on every page. And so it's a pretty clean website
Nice.
compared to what it was.
Yeah, great.
We use some of the same.
All right, so everyone takes a look.
Yeah.
And communicate with Mark.
Yep.
Sounds good. Anything else on website?
No.
Okay, thank you. Item 4, communications, meetings, protocols.
Well, I was gonna let Sam take that. I added that just so we could talk about this a little bit, guys, because we have been very negligent in how we meet and how we discuss and how we're illegal.
It's actually one of the meetings, like you have the papers in front of you, that is just one part of the ordinance that the board passed in December, which brought you guys more officially under our wing and being reported, this, that, and the other thing. It addresses, order of business. So one of those things is you guys are a codified board. And so the way you guys do things, either it has to be within the law. So, and that means open meetings laws too. It's not an open meeting policy. It is a law through the state of Colorado. So the public works thing, we had 4 board members there and we had no public notification that there was going to be more than 2 members. What? The board, the tree pruning day. So what it boils down to is if you guys want to do something like that and more of you want to be there, you have to let us know. It has to be noticed 24 hours ahead of time because the public has to, because there's going to be more than more than half of you there. So the public has a right to see what you're talking about, to see what you're discussing, whether you're making decisions that are going to affect them. And so we really need to follow up on that. And I get it, but it's not something you guys are used to. We need to. Also, if you guys are having big discussions about the agenda in your email, I need you guys to stop it. It's called a serial or a chain meeting, and it also violates laws. You guys can message Greg and be like, hey, can we have this on the agenda? And he can even answer you back, yeah, I'll put that on the agenda. Or if you came to my Civics Plus class, you can send it to me and I'll double check with Greg. But all of you can't be in a big group meeting. It's a violation of open meetings laws. So we just.
So reply all, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
Reply all.
Well, it's not just reply all, because if you're just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna write a message to Christina about what this email was just about, that's called a chain meeting, and it's also against open meetings laws. So I just need you guys to start being aware of that. And I know this is new, it's not the way things have operated, but it needs to be done. And I would rather post something that more than 2 of you might be there and only have 1 of you show up than have 4 of you show up and it not be noticed. So I'd rather err on the side of caution here.
Is that the protocol that if it's more than 2 members, it has to be public?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
while we are talking about this, can't we all note that the tree board meets the 3rd Tuesday of every month? And if you have suggestions, like if you have agenda items that you should, like a week before, get them to Greg, so he doesn't have to put out an email, because he's not going to anymore.
Well, Greg can still do that. And at that point, if you guys were to respond back to that, making sure not to include everybody else. But if he sent that out, Christina, and you just replied back to Greg and said, yes, I'd like to see this on the agenda. End of story, that's fine.
Okay.
You just can't continue to discuss it.
So how do we, is there any vehicle that we can all discuss something without having to meet?
Anytime more than 2 people, you have to have 24 hours.
Oh, wait, I take that back. Yes, you cannot be on the tree board and you can have coffee with your friends. But you're on the tree board, you're an advisory board of the council, so you have to follow the same laws.
So you just brought up something. Say my wife and I wanted to have the tree board over for dinner. Is that gonna be announced? Does that become a
But
public
are you
meeting?
gonna talk about trees?
No, you're
No,
absolutely.
heavens
not.
no.
Okay, because here's the thing, and we've had it happen to the board of trustees where there was a particularly hard meeting when I first started. And at the end of the night, everybody kind of breaks off into groups and goes home and everybody's frustrated and stuff like that. 3 members happened to be outside, just going, "Ooh, that was a rough one." Somebody drove by and the next day there was an official complaint that they were violating open meetings laws, and they had to, all 3 of them, write down their own version of that conversation, and it had to be publicly posted because there was 3 of them together. I mean, if you guys go to a social event, you happen to be there, you need to make a point to not talk about tree board business. You're like, "Oh yeah, no, we know each other from the tree board, but we're not gonna talk about trees." So, and I can tell from just the few meetings that I've had with all of you, you guys all have very strong opinions about what you do. There's a reason that you're on this board. And when you have those discussions in public, it goes right along with that education. Yeah, we may not be packing the place yet, but there's gonna come a time when people are like, "Oh, hey, this is a big deal, I'm gonna show up for this." And in order for them to take that education, they need to be able to trust you. And if we're violating open meetings laws and they know it, that trust is gone. And the town of Paonia already has a big uphill battle on reestablishing public trust. We're working really hard on it. We'd like to continue going forward. So,
that goes the same for texting too. You can text one other person and discuss.
yes, but then you can't turn around and text one other person and have the same discussion.
Why? That's still just.
It's a change.
It's a
Still
change.
change. You can say, if you test me and say, "What do you think about this?" And then you go and test Christina and say, "Tom said this," that becomes a
Well,
change.
what if I kept you on it?
No.
If you
already had
have the
conversation.
discussion with Greg, you need to not be having it with anybody else.
Yeah, but
until
if it's a
in
whole
this-
different string and just 2 people are involved.
Nope. I also sent you guys some great publications from CML, that's the Colorado Municipal League. Our board uses them as well. One of them is called Open Meetings, Open Records. I advise you look through it. I sent it to you in PDF form. It'll actually explain open meetings laws, open records laws, why certain things are public and why not. It gives really great advice. And the other one is ethics and liabilities for boards and commissions. I advise you read it too. It's really dry reading, not gonna lie to you, but it's important.
And even if he talked to Greg and then Greg talked to me, that would be a chain meeting.
So, and the other way to think of this, to help wrap your mind around the change, is before you guys didn't have a budget. This last year was the first time you guys officially requested a budget, which means you are, whether you have to go through our town administrator and the board or not, you are stewards of public taxpayer money now. That's the other reason why you cannot discuss things in private, because you're doing things with taxpayers' money. You want to know what's being done with your money, right?
Right.
I know I do. I don't know what I'm doing with my money half of the time, but I better darn sure make sure I know what I'm doing with the town of Paonia's taxpayer money. So if that helps wrap your mind around the transition, why it changes from the way it used to be, because that was one of the big reasons why it became really important to get you guys in here officially being reported, was because now you guys were working under a budget.
So we can meet as many times as we want in a month, as long as we give 24-hour notice to you, and then we can just.
And according to the ordinance, you're required to meet once a month. So you have to, even if you guys just show up and be like, we approve the minutes and we have nothing else to talk about, let's all go home.
Okay.
Yeah. This document that you gave us, was this just as an example or is this supposed to be?
Oh, no, that's just the part of the ordinance that has to do with the tree board. I'm happy to.
Item number 15, it says any member of the planning commission, so that should be any member of the tree board.
Oh, well then, yeah, that's a scrivener's error that needs to be fixed.
I was just letting you know.
Yes, thank you. It is a 14-page document. I didn't think you guys would want to read the whole thing, but by all means, if you would like a copy, I'm happy to email. But I just wanted you guys to see too, because I know there's a discussion tonight about changing meeting times, and so we'll talk about the process for that. Just to give you guys an idea of where you're at in the code right now.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Samira. So that's item number 4. Anything else on the topic?
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
So I was texting these people and asking them about tonight's meeting. Was that okay? About.
You're not on the board.
Yeah, you're not on
But that was okay for me.
Yeah.
Because you all were.
Now, Paula, here's the distinction for them though. Did you text a second person and say, okay, so I just talked to Greg about blah, 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 and he said blah, 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 and what do you think?
Okay, I just want to make sure
Okay.
that I don't want to get y'all in trouble.
I responded back correct. And what was the extent? That was the length of that text.
And it'll get to the point.
But hang on though, that went to 3 people simultaneously.
She's not
But she's
on the
right on the board, so don't worry about it.
Did all of you reply and
It's
have a
like
conversation
reply.
together
Well, we all replied.
to Paula?
Yeah,
Did you respond to Tom?
no.
That's why it's not an
No,
open
this
meeting
is just
violation. You can talk to Paula and 12 other friends about whatever you want to, Mark, but you cannot talk to these 7 friends without.
But we had 3 people on one conversation. What's the difference if I just,
Reply all,
I don't know, a text.
same thing. If you have a tree board group chat, I advise you shut it down immediately because it is a violation of open meetings law.
It also gets into the problem that if you have a board and a couple of people are feeling really strongly and 2 people feel differently and they get a third person on it and then they're going and talking to each other, that creates a lot of dissension in the board if that's happening. Now, this group hasn't made any appearance of that, but it can happen and it gets really ugly when that happens.
And that's one of the reasons why Robert's rules is a good way to run things too, because the rules are in place specifically so that people will debate and have dissenting opinions. But remember that they're talking about an idea and not personalities. It's a way to make sure contentious business can still be done in an effective way. But that's a different class I'll be teaching later, so. Let's work on open meetings laws first.
All right. We're good? Item
Yeah.
5.
Yeah, this is good. Thanks, Sam.
You're welcome.
Item number 5, subcommittee updates. So that,
Well, that's what number 6 is. I don't know why 5 has its own.
so a
Unless-
subcommittee is about the
Master plan.
master planting
My bad.
plan.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Oh, okay,
That was my bad.
So we can skip 5.
We'll move this item 6.
Just acknowledge that they're one and the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have master planting plan for Town Park, Apple Valley, and Lee's Park.
Yeah. And that's Tom and I.
Okay,
So, Ruben, can we bring up those slides? The PDFs? I sent you a bunch of them. I
Fuck the
sent
tree.
4 or 5, that's all right. Which one do you have? I sent one of Apple Valley, one of Lee's, one of Towns, and then I sent some other, I sent you other things well before that, like
That's for
like a
later.
week before.
You can keep.
All right, so I'll try to do this simply. I went out and looked. Historically, we're always scrambling, where are we gonna plant trees? And I've been someone that said, guys, you can't just willy-nilly start planting trees without a plan. So I went out to all the parks and I thought about where would be places to plant trees, kind of a comprehensive conceptual plan. And I'll just start with Town Park. So Town Park is it's a shade tree park. And we're trying to introduce diversity. Right now, we just have, we have a few lindens, we have a few catalpas, and we have maples. So we're trying to get some diversity in the park. The other thing we don't have is any understory trees. There's no understory trees, flowering trees in the park. So I mapped out a couple of places that could, we'll save this for next time, that could be good places for understory trees that we can talk about. I did the same thing at Apple Valley. Apple Valley is kind of open. There's lots of places for trees in Apple Valley. And so I did kind of a concept of, it's like some shade trees by the bleachers that's been talked about by a few people over the years. There's no ornamental trees, no understory trees in Apple Valley. And maybe Apple Valley can be a place for more evergreen trees as well, spring thorn pine. And then Lee's Park, what I did is a real down and dirty design for an arboretum there. So we've talked about an arboretum for years on the tree board. So Lee's Park might be a great place. Basically, there'd be a little parking lot and a winding trail. And then usually arboretums are done kind of in, you don't want to say biosphere, what's the word I want?
Cluster.
Well, you have like mesic and xeric and
Planting zones.
planting zones, thank you. And so that's how the arboretums are usually done. So I had this all drawn up in really bad, down and dirty little drawings. So we can talk about that next time. Town Park, yeah, Lee's Park, okay. But having said all that, if we don't get our water thing under control, we aren't gonna be planting any trees. So we have to, the cart has to come before the horse, or horse has to come before the cart. Yeah, exactly. So this will be good to review next time. Can that be put on Civic Plus and people look at it? Or did I say that right, Civic Plus?
Know that if your chair agrees with it being put on the next agenda and packet, we can add it to the next packet.
Yeah, okay, that's what we'll do. Okay.
Yeah,
We just need to have it all collaborated. We get so many emails in a day that, a week earlier for you is about 600 emails for us a lot of the time, so.
So what's the request here, Mark?
I'm going to send all the drawings that I did to be put in the agenda.
Okay, right, okay.
I think also as a consideration for Lee's Park, we should really ask the neighborhood what they want to see there. at
Well,
that
that's,
park.
right.
Maybe it's not an arboretum, maybe they like to just play in open fields,
Yep.
play.
Well, that becomes the next question, and I haven't really taken in the master plan for Paonia, like, if they're talking about these parks, no, okay.
Very, very
Big.
schematic. 10,000 feet looking down. They don't
Gotcha.
say anything about
Yeah.
we need to do trees here, this kind of tree there. It's very high level
Yeah,
thoughts.
but I think if we put this on the agenda to look at them and then talk about how would you, what are the steps so that we don't just do something and then find out that the kids were playing kickball there and we just put in an arboretum, where the space was, right? So we have to. figure
That's
out
what these drawings are, guys, just to get us talking about it.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's just discussion.
Yeah,
And I
Good.
thought this quick little conceptual drawings that I did would be good to talk about.
Well, and I think there's two approaches in my mind. We have Lee's Park, which a park is basically void of trees and could be, and basically nothing to it, and we could reinvent it and redesign that park. And maybe a little bit with Apple Valley, it does have trees, but I think between the town park and Apple Valley, is this more setting up another policy of what we're gonna do when we remove trees? And what our policy is gonna be about that, and how long are we gonna try to, how soon are we going to replace trees that are removed? Because we don't wanna get in a position where we're losing trees.
right.
And right now, we're losing
We're losing
trees.
trees.
And that happened this year.
And so that's the approach, and it's a combination of that and
Yeah,
figuring out how we're gonna get these trees watered.
yeah, so the watering
And it all kind of goes together.
and a plan so that we can really have a sense of what our next trees are going to be, what type and where, like really be. Sounds basic, but it would be really good, right? To feel like next year we're planning, a number of trees. We put it in the budget as a line item. We worked out our payment system for that. We got the watering committee. And yeah.
So to address Christina's point, yes, there's a whole bunch of planning that goes in before we do anything, but that is very important. Is that you do involve the neighbors.
Yeah.
Well, it has to get through town first to even get to the meetings with the neighborhood. But a question for you is River Park, the buildings, the historic, the museum,
Yeah,
is that considered a public?
yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
We were gonna plant
Yeah,
some
because
trees.
we had to sort of analyze the soil, what was going on there.
But that still could be part of the
Yeah,
overall plan, yeah, and I didn't include that.
yeah.
Well, I think that's all part of planning it, is if we feel we need to do soil tests.
Yeah.
At any of the parks, so we make sure that it's okay to plant trees. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all for now.
Good.
We'll
All right.
bring it up next meeting.
That's great. Thank you for that. All right. So that was item
6A. This is gonna be 6B.
6B, the tree root barrier.
So I was, yes, I was driving through town and the property owner, I happen to know him. He lives near Jeff Thompson.
Okay.
This was on North Fork near Jeff Thompson.
Okay.
So Paul stopped me and said, hey, I want you to, the tree the city planted, the town planted for me died. And I remember the whole thing. There was a big, I don't know what it was, a maple or an elm had to come down. And the town at the time, we did some sidewalks. Paul remembers this. We did some sidewalks and planted a tree. Well, I was shocked. This is they're called root barriers. And what they did, and this thing is probably 18 to 2 feet deep.
Where is this?
North Fork, right at North Fork and Third.
I thought this was right on Third with the 3 trees that are dying because they all have the root, okay.
This was done, I want to say 3 years ago. Anyhow.
It was done when those sidewalks were repaired?
Yep.
Was that 2020? I think that was,
I don't
it might have
remember.
been 2021, but it's one of those two.
So Paul asked me, hey, the tree the town planted died. Do I get a new one? It was just that simple. And he took me over to this and I was shocked. Because tree root barriers are designed to run along a curb and a sidewalk. So the tree-
How do you know, like, looking at that, I'm ignorant about this. How do you know that's a tree root barrier, not just like,
Because he told me.
Okay.
I said, typically I think we spec 18, 24 inches. He said, yeah, they were super deep.
oh, wow.
Because he watched. So tree root barriers are made to go on the curb side and sidewalk side and to be dug deep. So the tree roots don't impact the sidewalk so quick. They're probably gonna do it in time, but a lot of cities and states throughout the country use these
And how far away from the tree would you put that barrier?
at
At the
sidewalk
edge of the
and at the
sidewalk.
curb.
All the way over.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you have ample room for the roots to
Yeah.
expand out and grow.
yeah.
So
Well, it
these
sounds-
just go straight down.
The tree root barriers were used on all the trees on Grand Avenue when we did that big plant. Those were all tree root barriers,
They were.
but much larger,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, this
So
is
it sounds like there needs to
18
be
inches.
something like there's a pruning around
Planting.
planting and,
For town.
because it's an education thing, right? How would you know that if nobody taught you, right?
Well, I don't know how this even happened. Because we weren't even talking about root barriers at the time when this happened.
Well, and
We
it isn't
later
even
discussed
done
root
right.
barriers.
It should be
Yeah.
that, it should be down flush with. the
So-
street.
Yeah.
Didn't have a chance, did it?
You never did.
Here's the question.
No,
Does the town replace this tree?
No.
They planted it and they killed it. So
the
does
town put that barrier.
Yeah,
Oh, got it,
yeah.
okay.
Why did they put it there? What was their reason?
Well, they didn't know,
I had no
Sounds like
idea.
They don't know.
Yeah.
you know.
I would say you piece them and say, we'll put it on the list.
Well, that's kind of passive aggressive.
But, you know, you can be.
It's disingenuous would be a more
I
accurate.
know, but how else do you, I mean,
What kind of tree was it?
it looks like a maple.
I think it's
But
a
you could
red.
be honest and you could just say,
It
you know, we
wasn't a
want
good
to plant a
species
lot
to
of
show.
trees, but right now we're having some issues that we have to resolve and maybe in the future we will be able to plant more trees.
So let me ask you this, if Paul, the homeowner here, wants to buy the tree, would the town put it in?
Let's go do a planting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
Would
if
the
he wants to
town
donate
install-
a tree to the
Would
town,
the town install the root barrier? That's a ton of work, guys.
please.
It's a lot of work to install
You're
root
just-
barriers.
On what may in 15 years, in 12 years, we're not gonna be on the board.
That's a problem for a future board.
I would just like to point out that that's what trustee Stelter said, and he's back on the board, so. Be
So they need
Can't just make a
Some
joke
people-
when I
some-
be careful.
The universe heard you when you said that.
Well, I'm,
Yeah, there's a video of it, so.
Oh, okay.
If he wants to do a donation tree, which is great, we need to have some control of what tree
Oh,
he's
sure.
donating. Sure. So you don't want to plant maples in between the sidewalk and the street because they have lifting and heaving roots. And you pick a species that's less likely to.
Right,
Like a small
right, then you don't have to install that. Aren't there are trees that are.
Yeah, maples or oaks are great for something.
So,
you wouldn't have to put a root barrier in.
yeah, you still should.
Well, you say no.
Well, not typically, it takes a long time.
Well, let's at least agree that some trees are a lot worse than others.
So this brings up another question. If we're gonna do any street trees, do we do root barriers? I think I wrote that in the code.
Yeah, that's a good question.
And it's a lot of work, but to put them in.
So you go and put what, dig down 18 inches on each curb for 20, 10 feet?
Exactly.
I mean, to me, it should be put in if, say, for instance, we had a block that we're replanting trees, then you can put your root barrier in for that whole block.
It's very tricky to do it kind of in pieces.
Yeah, and I never did mess with root barriers in my career, so I'm not that familiar.
I did in California.
So you didn't mess with them because you planted.
They
other
didn't
varieties?
spec them, yeah, the specs
Yeah,
were.
certain towns spec them. California, every city had root barriers. That was just our standard when we were doing the plan.
Well, the reason we did it on Grand Avenue was because it was on Grand Avenue, it was in the middle of the sidewalk. We planted those trees, and not all the trees. The tree in front of the flower shop doesn't have root barrier, but all the rest of them do, especially, where am I sitting now? Especially the one right out here. Yeah.
Well, okay.
Well, I think also too, isn't there a plan to fix the sidewalks? So at some point, we should think to the fact that we are looking to fix the sidewalks, and so we shouldn't plant trees that will then again mess them up.
Well, if they fix the sidewalk, that's a very good point. You put root barriers in.
Yeah,
That's a matter of, right, putting specs together that require them to do.
Exactly.
And that's added cost to the whole project, so you aren't replacing as many sidewalks. There's many speeds.
Is there like a list that we can cross with like trees that don't heave versus trees that we recommend, and we can look at that and.
At one time, I don't know that I can find it again. There was a search engine, because I was putting a whole bunch of trees in, where you could spec what you wanted, and then it would come up with a list of trees.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I can find it. I know it exists
But
somewhere.
if we were to do that, so we have a street tree list, guys. It's on the website. We came up with it. If we were just to plant trees that don't heave sidewalks, we'd have 3 species. We have.
Well, we only have to do
and
that by
oaks.
sidewalks in the town park. You don't have to do
Yeah,
that.
but then we are diversifying trees. We take oak trees.
Is it just oaks?
Well, they have a.
Oaks, I'd have to look at the list.
Yeah. No, I mean, this brings up a whole nother
I
question.
mean, there's probably several more than 3, but.
But if you plant oaks. you
But
know,
yeah, but you know what? We don't have to worry about a diversity problem with oaks for decades because there's so many maples.
That's right. And when you say oaks, are you talking about bur oaks?
Or any oak, yeah.
Chickapin bird.
I mean, they
Just
take,
asking.
yeah.
All right,
So
we're
this,
over time.
yeah, this may be another discussion with getting into Woodbury at some point.
Lisa, welcome to our
Thank you.
scene here where everything we open, there's 10 other issues there. I think it's complicated. All right, so,
Can we just say one thing about this is like, the public is already like just putting in the trees, that they're planting trees without this barrier. I mean, people are planting trees all over the place.
it's not in the ordinance, is it?
No.
It's not.
I don't think it is. You know, like, so if you own a home and you wanted to plant a street tree, we want them to look at the varieties, but we're not, you know, it's not required, so.
So public education sounds like it is important in a lot of different ways.
In a lot of different ways, for sure. All right, let's move on to item 7, timing of monthly meeting. Kimberly?
So I was just wondering if we could make it like 15 minutes later or some minutes later, so that we can, those of us who want to go to the farmer's market, I mean, we want to support the farmer's market, we want to support the vendors, we want to support community, and, you know, 15, would people object to 15 or 20 minutes of a later start so that we can go to the farmer's market?
Oh, I think, is there a meeting tonight, a trustee meeting? No.
See, that's the issue, because
Oh, okay.
sometimes when the Tuesday you land on also coincides with the board meeting at 6:30. So if you
Tuesday is
guys-
the board meeting night?
No, not
No,
tonight.
sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
But if we're always the third Tuesday, but sometimes that will overlap, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you have to be done by a certain time.
Gotcha.
Well, that would just make us more disciplined, maybe.
Oh, you mean if we started at 5:30 and ended it, be out of here by 6:30?
Uh-huh.
Could we change days?
Well, I just didn't know if anybody, there's so many people's schedules, I didn't want to make it more difficult.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, I don't always come from a place of no calm. Come on. Actually, this is the other reason I had it in front of me. So in the code, it says you're the third Tuesday at 5:15. However, you guys can temporarily change, like if you wanted to work around it, as long as the meeting room is open and you do it by majority vote. You could move it temporarily for a certain reason.
We can't change the days or anything.
You can if you want to go to the board and ask them to change the ordinance.
So how do people, are people like, or they want to have it on Tuesday? Is that how people do it?
I think it's in our ordinance, the third Tuesday.
No, but she's saying we can change, that can be
I
changed.
don't
Well,
care.
not easily.
No, only by ordinance, it would take at least 30 days, if not more.
We'd
So
have to rewrite the ordinance, it'd have to go to the board, they'd have to vote on it. It's like, that. It's a written ordinance that's in the law then. That,
They change ordinances all the time.
I'm not opposed. I can't do Wednesdays. I have other meetings on Wednesday.
I mean, I don't have like a extreme push, it's just that I really like going to and I feel like it's a good thing to support, because if you don't have a lot of people, then vendors start coming, you know, it's just always a good thing to support.
Yeah, so is that market running
It starts at 5.
from what months to what months
It
typically?
goes from May to October,
From May to October.
but mid-May to mid-October.
So if you wanted to make a motion that
I know.
would say.
I do a newsletter over the real estate
Just
agents.
until our host market.
Well, I'm
is
just
done
wanting everybody to be
on
able
a
to.
different day, that
Yeah.
wouldn't need an ordinance change, you could do that by majority
If
vote.
we pushed it back 15 minutes start, would that make a difference for you?
Yeah, because I could be there at 5 and then I could leave at 5:25 and be here when it starts and still have 25 minutes to
Yeah,
get a couple vegetables or whatever. I mean, it's not as nice as being able to hang out for a long time, but it's something.
yeah.
It's all about compromise, right?
So we'd have to change the day to really,
No, he's saying, no, we can change it to 5:30 instead of 5.
no, but based on your last statement, if you really wanted to hang out, spend 3 hours there.
Yeah, but
You
I'm,
can't do it on Tuesday.
right, and I'm not trying to push for that. I'm just trying to get
If
something.
she's happy with that, would everybody be fine with for June, July, August, September, October? It starts 15 minutes later. I mean, because we would need to be mindful of the potential 6:30 meeting, right? So if you start at 5:30 and
Yeah.
be out of here by 6:30, I mean, we could do that.
We just always have to be mindful about time.
If there's another meeting, right on our heels, right?
Would you be able to tell it, like remind us tonight, since there is another one, you know, when it matches up?
Oh, yeah, when it matches up, I would, you guys know, because at that point, I probably tell you guys, you need to actually hard stop at like 6:15. You don't have time to set up for trustee meetings as well.
And it's
Or
not
that-
every time either.
But the farmer's market is every Tuesday, right? So you can go to all of them.
Right, but I mean,
Gotcha.
I have no problem.
That's good.
Just have that, it's fine.
I was just making sure. I think this means it's public.
They have to stay, well, whatever.
and it's not matching up with their meeting every time.
No, just every great once in a while, but you're right, too, it is a arbor market.
We're
does
only
run
once a month,
Tuesday.
we're meeting in normal markets every week.
Every week, right?
You could come late to the meeting also.
I don't want to be worse than I already am.
So what's your motion? Can you make a motion?
All right, everybody said what they want to say about it?
Yeah.
I make a motion to start the meeting at 5:30 instead of 5:15.
Between now and October, and
If
then.
that's preferable, between May 15th, the first arbor market, which is usually what, May 15th, and the last one, which is I think October 15th.
I second that. Let's do it. All in favor?
Wait,
Hold on.
wait.
What?
We can have
Say it
discussion.
together for me.
Or do we have to move it to?
I asked,
Just for this season, you guys can't change it that far up, so if you wanna do that, you need to do an ordinance thing. However, if you want the meeting to start at 5:30 until the arbor farmers market is over in October, that works just perfectly.
that's what we're saying, yeah.
Oh, well, your motion was a little bit.
Okay, I was trying to get what they wanted in there and I
Yeah.
didn't say it very well, so you can reword it, I give you permission.
So
It's 5:30.
5:30 is the motion to start the monthly meeting
During the arbor market.
during the arbor market season, so third Tuesday of every month, moving from 5:15 to 5:30 start.
So we got a second, but we need a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Oh, the man.
I didn't.
All right, all right.
I'm
moving on.
saying,
Public comment period. We have, open time for, did you come to, make a comment?
That's just my mom.
Oh, this.
Just,
Just, not just, that is my mom.
Comment?
Yeah, do you have a comment? About what? Anything, tree related? Not tree, no, I was
Oh, yeah.
at a meeting. It's not tonight. Oh, I just had.
Okay,
We'll catch up.
Does Paula have something?
Yes, I had two things I want to say. I will certainly be on the watering committee. Sweet. That's one of the reasons I wanted to be here. The other point I wanted to make is that I will do the Tree City USA application
Awesome.
in December. If maybe one or two people would watch with me so that you could take it over, and having the pictures was perfect. And then the, don't tell me, proclamation.
Whereas.
Yeah,
Yes.
I declare Paula is awesome. All in favor?
Yay. Thank you. I miss you guys.
Thanks,
It's
Paula.
so official.
All right, are we, meeting adjourned? Good for that? 6:29.